Hello everyone, my name is Br Nathanael. I'm from the Franciscan Halifax, and I was asked to reflect on finding joy, peace, and beauty in the mundane through the Catholic faith lens. First, I'd like to change the word mundane. Not even to ordinary, likely, because there's nothing ordinary about God's presence in each moment. There is grace in every moment. That is the gift of God's life, Him given of Himself to us in every moment. Mundane, I had to look it up, but it means lacking interest or excitement, dull, seeking a way out of his or her mundane, humdrum existence. So there's already a negative or at best a neutral association with the word. So maybe for this we could use the practice of the presence of God. And actually there's a book named that by Brother Lawrence, and it's a great resource to deepen your understanding of how to live the presence of God in every moment. And one of the things I got from reading it, this little writing, is how Brother Lawrence constantly conversed and talked with God and acted from that place. So he says that we ought to act with God with the greatest simplicity, speaking with Him frankly, plainly, and imploring His assistance in our affairs just as they happen. It sounds very great to ask for His assistance at the time we need it. And it's providential that He's there for us. Just talking to God, conversing with Him, also do all things out of the love of God. That came out of the book too, but there's many spiritual insights that he takes. An example of this I just like to share of my own is when I live with brothers in a fraternal life, so when I see dishes left undone on the kitchen sink and that, my first reaction is to complain about it. And that takes me out of the presence of God right away. But checking myself, I saw it as an opportunity to love God and my brothers. So this is a choosing of a loving action. I had to choose it though. That isn't natural to me. I was not moved by nice emotions, but I had to exercise my will to move into that loving action. Moving into that loving action gave me joy doing it, right? It gave me peace in this small little task. The small little task, and you remember Mother Teresa said, peeling potatoes with great love. There's a joy that comes from overcoming myself, and that's what I was experiencing. So part of finding joy, peace, and beauty in the moment is moving from focusing of myself, off myself, to outside myself. That's really the challenge of the spiritual life. So this movement from focusing off myself to outside myself must be grounded in the now, in the present moment. Our reality is we have so much going on, so many next things. I have a schedule and I don't want to be attached to it. We are not in the here and now, but already in the there and then. So I'm already moving to something already in my mind, and I'm not in the present moment where God communicates to us. So this keeps us scattered and dispersed very often and pulls apart by too many things, and it mentally gets me tired. I don't know about all of you, but it does. And it's not very refreshing when I don't spend the time in the present moment. So I would say dispersion and scatteredness is the enemy of the present moment, where we find beauty, joy, and peace in God's presence. And wherever we may be or whoever we're with, that's the present moment. So here are 3 everyday examples that we could use just to reflect on. The first one is, when was the last time you were truly attentive to the food you were eating? The flavor in your mouth. Oftentimes, we're rushing through our lunch, so we need to experience that. We have to pay attention to it. how often our meals an inconvenience oftentimes, and we're just trying to get to the next task or scheduled event that I have to do, eating on the go or going through drive-thrus. So that's the first one. The second one is, have you ever been in front of something beautiful, or a museum, or taking in something that you're visiting with another person, and they are moving off to the next thing, and you haven't even had time to take it all in? So, or have I been that person that has been moving away from that beauty that is in front of me? Have we been more concerned in getting a picture maybe of what we're observing than taking in the moment? Because I remember taking pictures when I was away, and you'd look at them and say, that doesn't reflect what I've seen. It was beautiful when I was there, but now I'm missing the point. So the third thing is, do we recognize children as a gift? This is kind of pertinent because even if they sometimes are annoying some days, or demanding, or maybe distracting, or are we more concerned with how they are taking away from my time? Because remember, children are in the present moment. They find awe and wonder in looking at a butterfly, or they're so engrossed in whatever they're doing. They're in the present moment, so we can learn from children too. They're not thinking about the next meeting or task, and how quickly the time flies too, and we may regret and wishing those moments again. So it's always good to observe children, how they act, and go back to our childhood some days. The next thing is, how do we practically stay in the present moment, in the presence of God? Specifically to me, I use a short spontaneous prayer and direct my heart to God. The words I use are affectionate to me for the Lord, and they're hopefully affectionate to the Lord too, meaningful to his heart too. I say, my Lord, and I'll repeat it a couple of times. And what does is it rekindles my heart. It actually takes me out of my mind and my too many thoughts or scatteredness, and it brings me back to my heart, and it warms my heart up. It will be different for everyone. Some people might use something simple, that I love you, Lord, or I trust in you, but maybe the Lord will reveal something to you. Other things you can use as images, of course, on the wall, like the crucifix behind me, or the Sacred Heart picture of the Lord's heart. Sometimes we can use on our bedroom doorposts, or the doors going out our door, a little holy image that we can touch and remind us to recollect ourselves as we go out the door for our day. That's always a good thing. A cross in our pocket, or a rosary in our pocket when we dig inside. One thing in our formation, Father Roberto taught us, is maybe to put a button in our shoe. So you don't want to put a big rock in your shoe or hurt yourself. It's just something to recollect yourself to the present moment and the presence of God. So it's always something. So we hear often, be in what you do. Make a point to guide doors shut, say. If you're coming out of the door, sometimes people just slam them, eh? But we're taught to guide the door shut and let it sit quietly so you're not disturbing everyone, eh? Another thing too is to preserve the silence, that everything we move through our day, preserving the silence within us. And one way too is to walk lightly. How often we step upstairs very heavy-footed, eh? But be aware of your body. Your body has to participate in the present moment too. Body, mind, and spirit has to come together in the presence of God. Some resources, these are practical things if you wanted to continue to read on this theme, of course, is, of course, Brother Lawrence, The Practice of the Presence of God. There's another book called Abandonment to Divine Providence, Jean-Pierre de la Caussade. So it's a very beautiful reflection on providence of God. St. Teresa Avila has a beautiful prayer, let nothing disturb you, it starts. And then And in the end, God suffices everything. So the other prayer I would recommend too is Blessed Charles de Foucault. He has a prayer of abandonment. So abandonment, trust in the Father's providence through the day. So these are some of the things. But I always remind myself to live the love God gives me in this moment. So live the love God gives you in this moment, in the very moment. Because the present moment is the only place of encounter with God. And He is our joy, our peace. He's there in that moment. And live this love of God while being with our families or serving our families, at work, teaching, whatever we do. Live the love of God gives us in that moment. Live it encountering our coworkers or our friends, right? We must always live and act from there. That's what the present moment brings, the presence of God. We act from there. Because every act of love is from God. Every act of love is from God. Love is an action. It's in movement. It moves. So it must move, right? And even in theology, if you think of Jesus Christ is the Word flowing from the Father. And sometimes you can change that word to the verb of God, the action of God. It's love. He is the action of God's love. So this is the incarnation of our faith, the action of God's love. God reveals His face in Jesus Christ. And He wants to reveal Him more deeply and truly to us in the present moment. So to be present to God in each moment means He reveals who He is, but He also reveals me to myself. Because who I am and who I am becoming also in movement, becoming, right? Becoming the love of God, becoming love. So these are some of the things you can reflect on. Sometimes we're so distant from ourselves because we don't live in the presence of God or in the present moment. So, and St. Catherine Siena always used to say that love our neighbor. And then she used to say, the first neighbor is yourself. But we got to get to know ourselves first. And the only way we truly know ourselves is when we encounter God. So I hope these reflections helped you a little bit. I think I'm a little longer than 10 minutes. So let us pray for each other for this grace. Because grace can invade in any moment. It doesn't matter where we are, at work, at play, with our family. We don't have to be in the church, right? It can invade in any moment. But these practices and disciplines can help us be available to the grace that's already being poured out upon us. So may the Lord bless you and keep you.